Hi everyone, I hope you're all doing well. Today we're starting a new series on the book of Ephesians. And I think Ephesians is one of my favourite books in the whole Bible because it's just so practical and useful for us today. But I wanted to go through a bit of the context and a bit about why it was written. So Paul wrote the letter to the church in Ephesians, but it was also probably intended to be circulated around some of the other churches in the area as well. So Paul had been to Ephesus in his second missionary journey, and he had had a really successful time there sharing the gospel, and he received very little backlash. So the people in Ephesus, the Christians, they had asked him to stay for longer, but Paul had decided not to. But then later on in his third missionary journey, Paul returned to Ephesus again, and he stayed there for 3 years. And during that time, he was able to help the Ephesian church and really help strengthen them and give them good advice. And he was also able to preach, and he converted many Gentiles in that time as well. And then at the end of his time in Ephesus, he had to obviously leave, and this was a very emotional departure, and this is detailed in the book of Acts. So Paul had obviously become really good friends with these people, and he had considered them really close companions. So Paul left Ephesus and he went and continued on his third missionary journey. But in the other cities afterwards, he had received a lot of hate, a lot of backlash, and he was then imprisoned in Rome. And when Paul had been imprisoned in Rome, the people in Ephesus had heard about this, and they were really disheartened and discouraged hearing about this because they considered Paul to be one of their leaders and one of their own. So when Paul had heard of their discouragement, he decided that he would write them a letter to encourage them and give them some really good practical advice because it was unlikely that he would ever be able to see them again. So there are 3 main themes in the book of Ephesians. The first one is that Christ has reconciled all of creation to himself and to God. The second is Christ has unified people all over the world through his church. And the third is that Christians must live as new people. So the lessons that Paul gave for the people in Ephesians are really useful for us today because they're so practical, both for individual Christians and for the church as a whole. So as we're going through the book, I'd really encourage you to study it with us and just to study it for yourself because it's such a great book and it's really reassuring, especially during these really hard times when life is really uncertain and we don't really know what's going to happen. But Paul is able to give us loads of encouragement about why God is always in control and that Christ is the greatest gift we ever have, even during times like this. So I hope you'll stay tuned for the rest of the videos coming in the next few weeks. And I hope that you'll get out your Bibles and study it with us yourself.